You're listening to Puma Podcast.
Hi, I'm Bella Perez Rubio, Puma Podcast for Teka Teka News. Something strange happened in 2023 and went largely unnoticed. Ever since The Economist published its first ever index in 2014, the Philippines has ranked among the top 6 most crony-capitalist countries in the world. In 2021, we ranked 4th, and in 2016, we were 3rd. But in the latest edition,
I don't know. I can't explain it myself. So I'm surprised as you were when you first saw it or read it. And I read the article and I still wasn't satisfied, why we got off the list. So we're not at the top anymore. So I don't know how that happened.
the Philippines mysteriously dropped off the crony-capitalism index that it used to top with regularity. In this episode, we revisit a conversation I had with political analyst Michael Yusingco, where I asked him what this all means. But before we begin, what even is a crony capitalist?
Basically, the definition would be a businessman or a corporation that exerts influence on public officials to get favorable policies, favorable contracts, favorable to their business interest.
Here's how the Economist's Crony Capitalism Index works. The British publication comes up with the ranking by looking at billionaire wealth generated in quote-unquote crony sectors or industries where producers enjoy excessive profit. Halimbawa ng mga sector ay utilities and telecoms, real estate at defense. The percentage of the gross domestic product that billionaire wealth accounts for is what determines a country's ranking on the index. In Russia, which has consistently topped the list, billionaire wealth from crony sectors accounts for 19% of its GDP. The Czech Republic, Malaysia, Singapore, and Mexico complete the top 5. So the obvious question is, bakit wala sa listahan ng Pilipinas? Nawala na ba ang crony capitalism sa bansa in the last few years?
No, definitely not. So the fact that we are not on the list, if I'm going to say something certain about this matter, doesn't mean that we have improved in terms of corruption or getting rid of corruption or getting rid of cronyism in our political system.
And there's data to back Yusingco's skepticism. In its latest Corruption Perception Index, Transparency International gave the Philippines a score of 33, ranking 116th out of 180 countries. How does the index work? Countries are given a score between 0, meaning highly corrupt, to 100, meaning very clean. These scores are based on the analysis of experts and surveys of business people. Yung score na 33 in 2022, mas malapit sa 0. Ibig sabihin, highly corrupt. And unlike the Economist's recent index, which implies an improvement, the Philippines was tagged a quote-unquote significant decliner by Transparency International. The score of 33, our lowest ever, was carried over from 2021 to 2022. Our highest ever score was 38 in 2014. So how do we make sense of this discrepancy?
I think one possible explanation would be the blurring of the line between the capitalist and the state. I think that could be one explanation. Because if you look at the definition of crony capitalism, it involves distinctly two sides, right? The capitalists, the business side, and the government side. No? And the very essence of crony capitalism is the ability of the business side to influence the government side through various means, bribery, etc., etc. But in our case, that line has been blurred. We practically have dynasties that have businesses and are also part of government.
More on crony capitalism in the Philippines after a quick break.
that division that I was talking about earlier is almost non-existent these days, no, in our case, because those crony capitalists, they've now invaded the political sphere. Now we have political dynasties who have both business interests and have members of their family now holding very high positions of power.
So I asked Yusingco, have the lines between business and government in the Philippines blurred rapidly enough to explain our sudden absence from the Economist index?
Yes, I would say so. Our case has gotten that worse that we deserve our own list. You know, we deserve to have our own index. We've become, in a way, as the legalists would say, sui generis. We've become so unique that we don't fall into that list anymore, that crony capitalism list. You just look at the 2022 elections, no? You have a mother and son who belong to the richest family.
He's of course talking about Senators Cynthia and Mark Villar. Manny Villar, a former Senate president, topped the Forbes list of Filipino billionaires in April. According to Forbes, Villar has a net worth of $8.6 billion.
As the recent report by PCIJ, you see family members donating money to other family members who ran in the elections. No? So that really shows the line between business and politics now almost non-existent. No? So businessmen, business people, business family are now also political families. I mean, it's only reasonable to project that they will exert influence in policymaking and legislation that will suit their business interest.
The Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism reported that half of the winning senators in 2022 received a total of 291.91 million pesos in campaign donations from relatives. Senator Lauren Legarda received a total of 136 million pesos in campaign funds donated by her father and her son. Senators Win Gatchalian, Mig Zubiri, and JV Ejercito also received tens of millions of pesos from their families. As a rule of thumb, Yusingco says no list can be fully accurate when assessing cronyism or corruption. It's more complicated than that.
I don't refer to just one index. When I measure corruption broadly as a problem, I would definitely refer to the Corruption Perception Index used by Transparency International. I would use that. And then, of course, I would also refer to figures released by the ombudsman of the number of cases being filed and certain elements of those cases being filed, like against whom is it filed or what cases are filed specifically. Corruption, as you would know, is not as simple as money being gained by somebody. There's a lot of machinations involved. There's a lot of wrongdoings or a network or a series of wrongdoings involved.
So where does that leave our latest ranking or non-ranking on the Economist's crony-capitalism index?
Even if you disregard the list, use your own eyes, you will see that cronyism is still very much alive. Corruption is still very much a problem in our political system. And again, I point to that just the most recent report of PCIJ on election donations. You will immediately conclude that cronyism is still alive, corruption is still a problem, no? Just by looking at that single report. So the fact that we're not on the list doesn't mean that we've improved on our fight against corruption. No?
And that was today's episode of Teka Teka News. Again, I'm Bella Perez Rubio. This episode was put together by Freddie Blanco and Mark Casilian. Follow Teka Teka News on your favorite podcast app or listen to us for free on YouTube. Thanks for listening.